a trail. It's not marked. And you then cut over through the left, and there is a road that is sort of blocked off, but you can get through it, that goes behind Sunken Gardens. So you are literally about 200 feet above the Sunken Garden stage, looking straight down onto the stage, and to the right is the highway, Trinity, Incarnate Word. It is absolutely spectacular at night.
So where does it kick out if you're not in the gardens? Where could you get on it to get to the gardens?
You could actually come across Trinity, but you would actually have to come across that overpass over the highway that says IWC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll take you to a grassy area, and then you can make it that way.
Okay.
Yep.
I've still never done it. You've told me about it. Something I really want to do.
It's a must-see do.
And because this is our very first episode, and I kind of don't know what I'm doing, I just started our video a little bit late. I'm with Tim Maloney, a local TV producer, great friend of mine, local injury attorney. We're going through our top 10 list. He's got some feral cats. He says Will Ferrell, but I think that they'll give you a fever if they scratch you. Favorite restaurant now, Signature, Hidden Gems in San Antonio, the Landa Library, but also close second, Japanese Tea Garden. I think I know this, but what's the nonprofit charity that you're most involved with here in town?
That's a tough one. Because there's Battered Women's Shelter, Planned Parenthood. It's kind of odd, but a lot of the causes for women who are struggling, Dress for Success, but Battered Women's Shelter, I think, is by far the one that I'm quietly involved in.
What is the gala you've invited me to many times?
Let's see, that would be the cancer. That would be Healing Hearts.
That's right.
And that is for a good friend of ours, Karen Martinez, who was a anchor here for years. She died of breast cancer. And before she died, it was remarkably brave of her to actually film from her hospital room going through the procedure to encourage other women that they're not alone. It's a very special, happens every year in March, and it's a very special charity.
It's very heavy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm not one for galas, but I've gone to it with you a few times. And this past year, in our efforts to be magnanimous, we both entered into a few auctions. I was lucky enough to win what I thought was a metaphorical wheelbarrow full of alcohol that turned out to actually be a wheelbarrow from like Home Depot full of booze.
400 pounds.
That's right.
Yes.
And you won for how much of a hunter you are.
Yeah, because my joy, my love, my life is, of course, the slaughter of very nearly extinct animals. It's a passion of mine.
And so you won the hunting trip to Africa.
I did it because I thought it was a photojournalism safari, and I finally found it in my drawer the other day, and I'm thinking I might as well use this. And I looked down, and apparently I get to kill an impala, a couple wildebeest, and something that's got horns. And what's really nice is then they will cut the animal's head off, decapitate it right in front of you, and boil all the meat off and salt it so you too can have your photograph taken with the skull and horns of an animal you've just shot from basically like a caged hunt.
Which is something a lot of people like.
I can't imagine a better time.
Not so much my thing. I don't think so much your thing either. Next question.
Unless, of course, the impala's wearing a MAGA hat. But I don't want to get started.
Well, this is a non-political show.
And I'm a non-political MAGA hater. Okay.
Okay. Do you have any odd hobbies? I know where that can lead with you, but, everybody's got, I've got a friend who's into woodworking. I just found out. Do you have anything like that?
Yes. Vintage watches. I collect very rare old vintage wristwatches.
I did know that, and I'm apparently the beneficiary of these at one point.
I'm wearing one as we speak. Yes, I do. I have developed a love for old watches because between the years of 1966 and 1972, the greatest watches in history were made because there was a huge competition among which ones could develop the first automatic chronograph. A very, very impressive thing happened in 1969. Those watches are still out there, and they're still running perfectly, and they're just so much cooler and nicer than what we have today.
I did not know that. Yeah. I know you've told me the history of all the watches you have and how rare some of them are, but I didn't know that was the reason.
That's it.
You've lived here your whole life?
Born and raised.
what is the single biggest change you have seen in this city in the time that you've lived here? And I'm sure that kind of transcends everything, but what's the one thing that really sticks out to you in terms of the city's identity?
That we've matured into a city. We've gotten we used to have a chip on our shoulder that Houston, Dallas, and too cool Austin was always, and there was always a fourth city. There's Houston, Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. And what's happened is with multiculturalism and the idea of that being a Hispanic is nothing to, quite frankly, be ashamed of. Because quite frankly, when I grew up, it was. The city was very, very prejudiced. It was very, very closed-minded. And what's happened in the last 25, 30 years, gloriously, in my opinion, is Hispanic culture. It's become the dominant culture, as it should. And also the idea that the tolerance in the gay and lesbian community, and also the idea that San Antonio has become a very cool place. And that was almost impossible to think of when I was growing up.
And I'm glad you said that. That, I think, is one of the ideas behind this podcast I wanted to do. I think our city is this, I mean, I say it's the best kept secret in Texas, and people have the shirts that say you can keep Austin, because I think we have this weird thing happening here. We're a little bit, 10 years behind other cities, but it is this wonderful thing that I think many people in Texas still consider us to be the fourth city.
Yeah, and that's, it's kind of what Chicago for years, that's why they call it Second City. It always had kind of a chip on the shoulder.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then New York, and then there was Chicago, everything in New York, and then there was Chicago.
Okay.
Well, there's Austin, and then there's San Antonio.
Fair.
And, what's cooler, Chicago or New York? Give me Chicago any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. I mean, this is near and dear to my heart because when I was a young man, I had a mullet, and I mean a real mullet. But I think these things follow all of us in life. So what is the terrible trend that you bought into when you were like junior high, high school?
Well, this is a family show. But I do have a wonderful story involving my geometry teacher, but I won't get into that in high school. But froze. Back then, we literally had froze with fro picks. We'd pick our hair off.
And you had one.
Like the brothers. I actually had a fro.
Okay.
I had a fro. I made Julius Irving look like an amateur.
Well,
and there was a reason for that. And this is honest to God true story. I don't know if I can say it on this family show, but anyway, my senior year in high school, I ended up getting a fro permanent from one of my teachers. And I went to her house, and she actually did
Hold on. You kind of glossed over that. You got a perm.
Yeah.
Okay. You said a permanent from a teacher. No, you got a perm in your hair. Okay. All right.
Well, that's what they call permanent.
I know, but most people.
A perm in my hair because that was a trend. And she graciously agreed to
do the perm for you.
Do a perm for me in her robe at her apartment at 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, it was,
different people had different upbringings. I've learned yours was very different than mine.
Yeah.
I was quite edgy with my mullet. But now it's, a cause for,
Did you have a Rush t-shirt too?
See, that was before me.
Oh.
I was post-Rush,
Yeah.
pre-MC Hammer pants mullet. So I was more Joe Dirt mullet kind of era.
I would bet in the greater Burke Burnett area, you were. Did you have a little like wispy mustache to go with it?
No, and I couldn't have a rat tail. That was a rule my dad laid down. So I could have a mullet.
Yeah,
but
no
rat tail. Yeah,
but you had the proverbial pickup truck.
I mean, I'm talking. I had a mullet when I was like 8. Not like when I was in high school. When I was a kid, I had a mullet. I mean, I'm sure I did a million of the other terrible things whenever I was in high school, but I'm not going to go through all of them.
Did you really have a piece of hay, sucking on a piece of hay too?
No. I had a Bronco too, no truck. No truck. Okay, you've lived here your whole life, right?
Yeah.
So that marks out the next. Which one's your favorite Fiesta event?
My party at King William Fair.
Okay, King William Fair, and you throw a great party every year at King William Fair.
Every year, and we what we do is we donate a bunch of money to the fair, and we that to me it's what Fiesta used to be and should be. Involves neighborhoods. It involves people have pride in their neighborhoods, pride in their friends, and it's by far to me the best event.
Still small. Feels small.
It's
until about noon.
Well, by then, quite frankly, does anybody really remember?
Yeah. The parade's what, 9 o'clock or something?
Yeah, but it's over by 10 o'clock. Yeah. And so the bar is open at 10:01. So it's getting people out of the office is the hardest part.
10:01.
Okay, maybe 9. Maybe 9. Well, you have to test. I'm having guests, for God's sakes.
All right, so we're fixing to get into some of your sort of extracurricular involvement with television, and you do produce a reality show currently on Bravo. And since we're talking about reality shows, and we're gonna talk about reality shows, what is your favorite reality show outside of the ones you've been involved in?
That's a hell of a question. I'll tell you why. Because people don't really understand the history of reality shows. The very first reality show was when HBO was a nascent network, and it was called An American Family. And it was about the Loud family. And it was actually filmed in the early 1970s. And it was the first time they actually were going to follow a family around, and it was going to be a joke because no one understood how could this be interesting. It became an absolute phenomenon, and people, no one had ever done it before because they just followed in a family drama, and no one really knew what was going to happen. And it was really reality TV, and that really started the whole genre. And if you go back and look at it, it was so well done and so good that it shows you that the form can be elevated into something more than just rich people screaming at each other. So that kind of got me interested in it. What's going on today, unfortunately, is you have broadcast stuff that is for entertainment, and then you have reality shows, stuff like that are shot in Mexico on the border, crime stuff, incredibly serious subject matter. So if you're looking for entertainment, Below Deck by far. Kate Chastain is awesome. Okay. I happened to meet her a couple times. She is a pain in the ass. She's great. But that's a very well done show, I think.
Okay. See, I always thought the beginning of reality was Real World because they were kind of one of the first movers on
That was the first entertainment. I think for entertainment, that was geared toward an entertainment show as opposed to really a family drama, like real drama in the family.
So what would be the line between documentary and reality show then?
The spontaneity of it when you go into a documentary. I've done documentaries. I did one on a designer called Halston, and it did very, very well. It's called Ultra Suede. Still online. You can still buy it. Please do. We were on Showtime, and we were on HBO with that. And we knew exactly where the story was going to go. It was a recreation of events that have already occurred. So when you're doing a documentary, you have a blueprint from A to Z. When we do these shows, we really don't know what's going to happen. It's called a story Bible.
Sure.
A story Bible is, okay, let's go to dinner, and we'll have a few cocktails, and it's because somebody said something about somebody else. Turn the camera on, and let's see what the hell happens. And so in that aspect, it really is real. So that's what people don't really get, and people also don't really understand how difficult it is to make these shows.
But to be fair, it's real the same way like throwing, an injured animal into a pen with a lion would be real. But I mean, you create y'all are creating an arena for drama to occur with people that have been pre-vetted to probably, be that lion.
Interesting though, because it's more like you throw a wolverine, a bear, a lion, a tiger, and some drunk guy with a gun.
All hungry?
Yeah, throw them all into a pit and just see which one survives. I mean, you think...
I agree.
You think maybe the tiger's going to pull it off, but, that little wolverine, quip, you don't know.
So I guess now I never even thought about this, but what's the Showtime show that's been following politics? It follows...
Oh,
I'm talking about Into the Circus or something like that.
Yeah, right. I know. I forget the name of the show, but sure.
But so then you kind of have that fine line between what a documentary is, if it's kind of consistently paying out, as opposed to a reality show that also sort of follows a less structured. Because there's got to be. I mean, really, if you think about it, there's kind of a gray area. Nobody would call Real Housewives a documentary, but you could.
Well, now again, I mean, a documentary has a very specific format that you follow. In that regard, to say when we were doing a documentary. And also just how it was done. Because, that was really Whitney's show, and he did a great job with it. I was a producer on it, but they did most of the work. So I took all the credit. They did all the work. Typical producer.
I've seen it. I saw your name.
Yeah. And so but that really is, it was scripted from day one as to what we were trying to do. In other words, we were trying to really show New York in the 70s and 80s. Really about Studio 54, the AIDS crisis was just starting. Stonewall in 75, it just happened. I mean, all of these things. And And that was really what we're trying to do it when we voiced it through a designer named Halston, who was kind of king of New York. So you know where you want to end up. In other words, there's no surprise because we know he died. We know he lived. We knew the end of the story.
Sure.
And that's kind of the biggest difference.
But all of them are. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This political one. I mean, would you call that a reality show? Because
you could. Sure.
Each episode changes as the campaign goes.
By the way, we call them docudramas.
Oh, docuseries, maybe.
Docudrama.
Okay. All right.
Docuseries would be like the political show.
All right.
This is a docudrama.
So let's go back a little bit, Tim. You were a practicing lawyer. I'm going to skip over. You came from a lawyer dynastic family in San Antonio. Your father's a legend. You and every one of your siblings, and I think almost all of your nieces and nephews of age, are attorneys.
They are.
You spent some time in politics, and then you became a practicing lawyer as well.
Yeah.
At some point, you decided, I'm going to go do film school, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, what happened was, this is an ode to young lawyerdom. I was very fortunate. Came out of law school, worked for my brother, Micah Marinell. My sister-in-law is Marinell. She was a very famous, somewhat controversial, but excellent healthcare lawyer who subsequently died of cancer. That's also what one of the Healing Hearts tributes is to her. And that is, I worked for them for about a year. Obviously couldn't work for my family, just butting heads. Went on my own with literally one file. I had a DWI file. And I had $14,000. I had a paralegal and one file. And went out on my own and was very lucky. I met a guy named Troy Rafferty, who was a lawyer from Pensacola, Florida. And I got into something very exotic called mass torts. And it's we don't have the forum to go into what that is now. But I got into it very early when nobody really knew what it was. I was fortunate enough to make some money, and I've always wanted to move to New York and go to film school. And I decided after 5 years of practice, if I don't do it now, I never will. So I basically turned it over to, I had a guy working for me who's still one of my best friends. I said, cover my back, I'm moving to New York.
Was that Paul?
No, a fellow named John Hyde.
Okay.
And moved to New York, did the proverbial living in Soho. I had one of those laws where the elevators go into the apartment, you lift the crate up, elevator.
Tough life.
It didn't suck. But went there, and that's where I actually met Whitney Smith, who's still my business partner today. That was 24 years ago.
And Whitney is the face on Ultra Suede. He's the one doing the interviews. Right. He's one of your good friends. And you and him have done a bunch of projects together.
He's also the creator of Southern Charm. He's on air. In fact, he's filming literally today.
All right.
In Charleston for the 7th season of Southern Charm.
Okay, so let's get to that. And I'm going to back you up a little bit. So you go to, as a fifth-year lawyer, you say, I'm taking a sabbatical, which I wish I could do. This is my sabbatical. So you go to film school, you meet who becomes one of your best friends and business partners, Whitney. And one of the first things y'all did was a show called Bubba and Ike.
Yeah, is that correct? Based on that was an absolute true story.
Okay, tell us about it.
I was, I'll digress quickly. I had a rather checkered undergraduate career at the University of Texas. And I had been there, about 9 years to get my undergrad.
Tommy boy.
Well, basically. But I was working in politics most of the time.
Yeah.
I was working at the Capitol, so I'd take, back then you could take 6 hours. So, I mean, it wasn't in any real hurry because back then it cost $36 a semester to go to UT. It was $3 an hour. Basically, back then we had free education to go to college.
Yeah.
What the hell ever happened to those days? I don't know. But anyway, I've been there so long that finally my dean called me up. She goes, Tim, you need to get the hell out of here. You've been here, and you need to move on. And she said, what are you going to do? I said, well, thinking about doing this and that. She goes, well, all you need to do is you need to get a foreign language. And I said, okay. So they had these things called CLEP tests, which were basically, you place that hours because you're so proficient.
You could CLEP out.
Didn't speak a word of Spanish. But I had a very good friend who was a Peruvian soccer player. And back then it was kind of on the honor system. So you just show up and you sign your name. And I said, dude, here's the deal. You go in and you sign my name. I'll sign your name. But I just need 12 hours to graduate. Don't go freaking nuts on me. Finished it. I'm feeling good. Get my degree. Got to figure out my life. I'm 26. I got to do something. I got a call from Janet Lippman. I still remember her name. It was Dean Lippman. I'd been there so long, she started out as my counselor, and she had worked her way up to become the dean of the liberal arts school.
All right.
Dean Lippman calls me up, and she goes, Tim, this is amazing, because when you came here, you couldn't speak a word of Spanish, and you just placed out of 48 hours of upper division Spanish. I'm like, I crammed.
Yeah.
I filled the bathtub up, She goes, well, that's great, because I speak fluent Spanish. So why don't we just have a conversation? I said, Dean, I drained the tub. That's the way it works. You fill up, you drain it. She goes, well, that's awesome, because I got two options for you. One, I expel you right here. I'm like, is there a plan B? She goes, plan B is, and then she goes, I can't believe I'm even saying this. Plan B is you have to go live in Spain for the summer. I'm like, huh. So does that entail school? She goes, yeah, you have to actually go to school, but you have to go to Spain for the summer. So I ended up going to Spain and living in Spain.
Where?
Valencia. Yeah.
So I feel like we got off. Where does this come to Bubba and Ike?
I was sitting there, one of my roommates with a cat named Ike. And Ike was a true West Texas cowboy. Family had a huge ranch. He was a real cowboy. Rodeo, did the whole damn thing. And what they would do when you're over there, they'd take you on these cultural tours. And one of the cultural tours one day, his best friend was there, and his name was Bubba. And Bubba made me look small. He's probably 6'7", 350. A cowboy.
In Spain.
Oh yeah. Okay. They were both in West Texas, and they were doing the same thing I was doing.
Sure. Wait, they were working off their got busted cheating punishment?
You have such a harsh term.
Well, Okay, so they were just in Spain with you.
I just think I was overly aggressive in my, love of the Spanish language. Anyway.
All right.
One of the day trips was they were going to take us to a matador school where they taught the little matadors how to be bullfighters. So, of course, Bubba and Ike, what we do is find 3 cases of beer, load up the bus, and we take, 35 people. We go to this matador school. We've already drank about a case of beer by the time we got there. We're sitting there, and all these little matadors come out, and of course, all the girls are just like, oh. They're glistening in the sun, these 17-year-old Spanish dudes who are like little gods and stuff. Of course, Bubba and Ike being around, cows and steers and bulls.
They were home.
Yeah. And so the first, little matador gets out there, and they let out a steer, because that's what they practice on, not a real bull, a steer.
A neutered bull.
Yeah, I guess so, but a little one.
Okay, yeah.
Bubba and Ike just start laughing, and they just start heckling the matadors. What?
In Spanish or English?
Oh, hell, English. They spoke Spanish as well as I did. And it just, you call that a bull? Are you kidding me? And so finally one of the little matadors comes over and says, Senor, you are so brave. Why don't you come down and fight the bull? Swear to God, true story. Bubba just says move. He just moves everyone out of the way, and he jumps into the arena. And he gets in the middle of them. He says, let them loose. And they're all like, the little matadors, they're all flipping out. They're like, get out of there. Get the hell out of there. Hell no, let them loose. So they get so mad at Bubba, they actually let one loose. And sure enough, a damn steer comes out and comes running right at him. What does Bubba do?
Bulldogs it.
Picks it up, throws it down, takes his belt off, and hog ties it all 4 feet and walks away. All the little matadors were so emasculated. They just walked out. You could see their little hats almost turned down, walked out. Absolute true story. Huh. And that was our first short film.
Okay, and so the film was just based on these personas?
Yeah, that was it.
And
it did really well. We actually opened for 2 big Hollywood films, premieres.
Okay, and that was late 90s?
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
And then Ultra Suede was after that?
Yeah, Ultra Suede was a few years. But we did several short films. And then we got hired by Harvey Weinstein and Dimension Films. Mike Zumas hired us because we had done a really good script. It was back when wrestling was really getting big back in the day. And we had done a real comedy, funny script.
Getting big for the second time. So there was the Hulk Hogan era, then a lull, and
this
then
would have been right at the Hulk Hogan era, kind of a little bit, yeah. And so everybody wanted to do a wrestling movie. And Zumas, he offered to buy our script. He optioned it up and said, we want to do this is the film we want to do. And David Arquette at that time also had a wrestling script.
He made his though, right?
Yeah. horrible. I mean, unwatchable.
I mean, horrible actor.
I mean, yeah. Well,
Unless you're David Arquette, then you're great.
Well, wasn't he? I think he was. I don't know if he's still married to Courtney Cox or not, but he was doing something right. Anyway, they didn't do our script, but Zoom has always remembered it, and he called us up one day and he goes, "Look, we're doing this film called Van Wilder with this new actor called Ryan Reynolds, and basically we got a script that's like a Pauly Shore stand-up comedy. It sucks, and we're starting filming next week. You guys interested in doing it?"
I mean, Pauly Shore shows were crazy successful, though.
Oh, he was huge.
Yeah.
But they had this new actor, Ryan Reynolds. They were going to break. Ryan Reynolds going to be a big star, right? And so they said, okay, here's Friday. We need a rewrite by Monday. You guys want the gig or not? Well, of course we did. So
where is this in your profession at the time? So had you gone back to practicing law part-time, full-time?
Oh yeah, though I was in like trials.
Okay.
I mean, I'd go out on weekends and work on this stuff. I'd leave on Thursday nights. I'd go out there and work on LA, and then I'd come back Monday morning to practice law. And so I'm out there, and Whitney and I literally stay up for 2.5, 3 days. We literally rewrote a 110-page script, and it was really good. It was funny. Zoomis loved it, and he goes, "Look, Harvey wants to talk to you." And it's Harvey Weinstein, right? I'm like, Mike, I got a little problem. I've got to be in Detroit in federal court on Monday with Jeff Feiger because we have a Dr. Kevorkian case going on, and I need to like have a day job kind of thing that's a little bit important. And this is fun.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit Dr. Death thing. He goes, "You got to be here, man. Come on." I literally called the judge up. True story. I called the judge up. I just laid it out to him. So, look, I'm just being honest with you, Judge. One of my fun night jobs is, man, I do TV. I got this film thing going. And he goes, "All right, you know what? It's a hearing. Show up Tuesday, but damn it, you better be here Tuesday." Well, we get into the room, and I'm thinking Whitney's going to pitch it because I'll write, but I don't live in LA. Pitching is not something I really did. Whitney is so nervous he can't pitch. He just freezes up. He goes, "Man, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it."
Well, and Harvey was supposed to be a very intimidating character, right?
Oh, well, Harvey was so busy, he decided he was going to call in from his jet.
Huh.
So we have a speaker box in the middle of the table, and it's Harvey Weinstein. "All right, let's hear it. What do you got?" I'm like, "Fuck it. Heck with it. I'll pitch it." So I'm just figuring like I'm giving an opening statement. I just said, okay, I'm in court. This is like I got to convince the jury, but now I got a bench trial with Harvey Weinstein. I do the pitch for about 25, 30 minutes. Zoomis is laughing. I'm thinking I'm killing it. And Weinstein's like, yeah, you know what? I don't think your character's sympathetic enough. I'll pass. Click. And that was the end of it. I mean, after 3 days of work getting it, that was my Harvey Weinstein story. And that's,
So who ended up writing the script then? Because the movie got made.
Yeah, Van Wilder got made. And it was, again, some people actually liked it. I mean, it was, we thought it was awful.
Oh, were y'all doing a rewrite on the script that actually ended up making the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get paid? I mean,
they pay. Oh, yeah,
they pay for a rewrite.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and they put us up in a nice big suite, the Sunset Marquee. I mean,
nice.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to meet Harvey?
No, on a speakerphone.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the extent of my Harvey Weinstein story.
Is the Tom Cruise character in Tropic Thunder supposed to be him?
That's Harvey Weinstein. Okay. That literally is Harvey Weinstein.
Okay.
That was him.
Just obnoxious in your face.
At a minimum, he was the most hated guy in the history of Hollywood. That Tom Cruise character, that was Harvey Weinstein.
Unless you're one of the actors that he pulled out of obscurity and gave an Oscar.
Oh, but even still.
Yeah.
He would be that big a jerk. But because I made you, I found you, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that was so that was the end of that. And then what happened about I guess Whitney and I made like 3 or 4 more, I thought really good short films. We did one called Torture TV. And it was so far ahead of its time.
I saw a mention to that today when I was looking.
Torture TV, I still have a copy. It's really good because we were sitting in New York. We said, okay, look, what's going on now in the world? And this is just, we had heard about CIA doing, a bunch of this stuff.
Sure.
So we did this over to the top thing of, we said, who are the nicest people in the world? Australians, okay? So we said it in Australia, and we hired these 2 Australian actors. And one of them was on a show called Jag, actually. Anyway,
like the lawyer Jag show?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Trevor.
Ran for like 10 seasons.
Right, that's it. Trevor was on it for the whole time. Anyway, Trevor was our star. And so we did Torture TV. And what it was like a studio audience all clapping, we're having and basically it was like torture scenes from around the world. And, the Aussies are going, that's got a smart, my guy in a cage getting poked by stuff. I mean, just.
Wasn't there an episode of Black Mirror sort of
that? Basically, I'm sure that's where they got it from.
Okay.
We were in film festivals on this thing, but it got so controversial, they just couldn't play it.
What year would this have been?
2000 maybe, I guess.
So well after sort of the Faces of Death.
Yeah.
Weird thing that happened there for a while.
It would have been just before probably, I guess, 9/11.
Okay.
So we were just on the, and again, watching it was really well done. I mean, we were shooting on Panavision 35 millimeter cameras. I mean, we had really professional actors, and it was about a 30-minute long film, and we thought it was brilliant. We didn't get that reception.
So I've never asked you this. What is the deal with short films? Because what is the market for short films?
It's a calling card. It's basically to get you into the door for a feature.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Right.
Okay. I mean, now with Netflix, you can actually make 50-minute movies and people see them. But before.
Now, back then it was festival work, and it was just basically to say, okay, I can work on film because, digital was still relatively new. And so you still had to know how to shoot on film, and shooting on film is still an art. I mean, it really is. It's incredibly hard to shoot on film, especially 35 millimeter, just because of the light. They still have grips, they still have lighting, they still have, and you're basically running about 12 minutes of tape of film, and you're changing them out the cartridges left and right. And if you screw it up, you've just screwed up $5,000 worth of film.
Jeez. And Tarantino's sort of one of the few purists still, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's nothing like shooting on 35 millimeter film.
Looks better?
Oh, you look at his films. They're beautiful. Look, just turn off the sound and look at them. They're beautiful.
So at some point you went from kind of serious movie making and then kind of funny stuff as well, and then now you're into...
The Charleston story was Whitney's mom. She was recently widowed, and she was from the South, and she wanted to move out of Long Island, where she was.
And hold on, let me say the Charleston story. We're starting to talk about Southern Charm, which the original is based in Charleston. Right. Now y'all are doing something in New Orleans. But tell me sort of the origin story of Southern Charm.
Shockingly involved a cocktail.
Okay,
I know. Go figure.
Whitney's mom's sort of famous for having her morning cocktails, right?
She is the probably number one outside of Lisa Vanderpump, probably the number one reality star on TV right now. So anyway, down in Charleston, the story goes, having a few cocktails, looking around going, you know what, this is kind of a cool town. And didn't really know much about Charleston, but it was like a clean New Orleans. Like, this is like I didn't really know a lot about it. Didn't have that New Orleans smell, but it had.
And we apologize if New Orleans is offended.
Dude, I'm in New Orleans. I mean, you know what I mean?
Fair.
I mean, if anybody can offend them, I have that right. And just
it's a beautiful city.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
No, it's one of the most. Their history.
I mean, it's the South, so
yes. But their history was the mistress of Sherman was living in Charleston, and the mayor went out and said, "Let's cut a deal. We saw what you did to Atlanta. How about you just kind of like, what do you want?"
I didn't know that.
So Sherman marched in and didn't burn a thing.
Okay,
so that's why the battery and everything's still there. So. Just sitting around, and we did a reel. He and John Paul really did it. They were my other business partner, John Paul Horseman, who if you were Billie Eilish fans, I'll tell you that later. Shot the reel, sent it to Bravo. They liked it, and next thing you know, it's 7 years later, and it's one of the top-rated shows on Bravo.
So Southern Charm, the original is in season 7 now, but you and Whitney, much more your involvement. The second time around started a spin-off series called Southern Charm New Orleans.
Yeah, we basically started a franchise. I mean, and again, I absolutely want to emphasize that, Whitney really did. He didn't get enough credit because he did create that entire franchise.
Yeah.
He really did. And then New Orleans, we spent probably 18 months casting. What's interesting about New Orleans is it started out with an all-white mid-20s cast. We ended up with an all-African-American cast mid-30s. I mean, to show you how the transition can go, about you don't know where the story's going to go. Because all of a sudden, we found much more interesting characters.
Well, let me tell you sort of my great disappointment with all reality shows, and specifically the one you're doing, is it doesn't do enough to show the city. Like when I watched Tremmy on HBO,
Yeah.
I wanted more. I wanted
Right.
to know more about the city. And I feel like these shows kind of, I mean, just like your Charleston story.
Right.
I mean, of course you need the drama and of course you need all that, but I wish there was a hook for other people who are actually interested in knowing more about the hidden gems of the city, the hidden history, the hidden culture.
The problem is you got 43 minutes and 17 minutes of ad time you got to sell.
Yeah, sure.
And so in that 43 minutes, you have to then establish an audience who likes a character, not a city. We're not selling a city. We're selling a place. We're selling a location. But unless you have the right cast, like we just completed a show in Austin that got submitted last week. We've got 2 new shows that we're doing on Austin. And that one we hope to show more of the city itself and why Austin is a very cool place.
Is there a working title?
Right.
Is there?
I can't disclose that at this point. It's actually being reviewed as we speak. But we're very optimistic about that show. But that's why you have to do it. Reality shows are based on one thing, and that is the cast. Without the cast, it doesn't matter how good the location is. The audience is not connecting with those individuals, then you're not going to be picked up.
And that's really something the real world kind of created, right? This ability to put the random people in a room and generate drama.
Now they call them Bravo. They're called Bravo celebrities. And we had this summer, or I think it was last fall, they had the first Bravo Con instead of Comic Con. Bravo Con at Madison Square Garden. It oversold by 14,000 people.
What was the average?
What
was the demographic?
From 15 years old to 80 years old.
More women than men, I assume.
You would be surprised. It was probably 60-40. But it was like all the cast from Below Deck, all the cast from Housewives shows, Southern Charm cast.
Okay.
It was like going to a Rolling Stones concert. People were just screaming. I mean, you would.
Okay.
Do not besmirch my people.
All right.
But yeah, seriously. And
Okay.
the one coming up next year is already sold out. It's already sold out.
Well, I think you and me and Whitney were having margaritas probably right after season 1 of Southern Charm. And you left us because, I don't know, you were weak that day. And me and Whitney are sitting there, and I thought, nobody knows this show.
Right.
And random 2 women come up and they're like, are you Whitney from... And I thought, this can't be for real. And people were like pointing and whispering at tables because they knew who he was.
Let me show you how big this is. This is probably off the record. I don't care. I take it you've heard of Larry David, right?
I have.
Okay, he's done okay.
Yeah,
Larry's done okay.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Larry David's girlfriend Ashley, who could not be one of the nicest person you've ever met, loves Southern Charm.
Okay,
loves it. Loves Whitney. Loves the whole deal. Larry David contacts Whitney and says, "Look, I don't know you, but how you doing? Can you do me a favor? My girlfriend loves the show, and she'd love to get a job on the show. Well, what the hell do you think?" Whitney kind of said, "Yeah, I think we could probably squeeze her in." So Ashley has worked on season 6, and she's out there actually for season 7 right now. So Whitney and Larry David have become good friends.
All right.
All because his girlfriend loves Southern Charm. No, people don't. I mean, they're passionate about it. I mean, I'm talking about they know more about the show than I do. I mean, I'm talking about like, why was she wearing that? Are you? I'm talking about I get calls before the season airs and people want to know. They want to know what's going to happen, what's going on.
Yeah, I don't remember one of our friends. We don't have to mention them by name, but you set up as a gift to his wife a meet and greet with Whitney's mother,
Absolutely.
if I recall.
Yes, absolutely.
That was a big deal to her.
It was a birthday.
Yeah.
And their biggest thing was that her and about 7 of her friends flew to Charleston, and they were just saying, is there any possible way they could meet Pat Altschultz, which is Whitney's mom?
Yeah.
They all wanted to meet Whitney's mom. I've known Pat since I've known Whitney.
I mean, Pat is like she's the mom from Arrested Development.
She's very Jessica Walter like,
yes.
but classier.
Yeah.
But that type of person.
The mom from Archer.
Very, very, very much so. I mean, very not, but and plus she's got this. Her house is one of the most amazing houses in the South. It was the old public library, built in 1880 something. And it was kind of dilapidated when she bought it. And she spent millions and millions of dollars redoing it. And she was gracious enough to host cocktails and hors d'oeuvres for this group. And This group travels all over the world. They're very wealthy, successful people.
Sure.
They've never had, they still talk about the idea that they got to meet Whitney's mom. Can't make that up. True story.
I mean, politics aside, it just sort of, it just goes towards this cult of celebrity and how much celebrity matters in our country.
Yeah.
I mean, from politics to that is what this guy's wife wants for her birthday.
He and I rarely can even go out now without somebody at least 2 or 3 times during dinner. We were just in Austin, and it was probably, you ever been to 616? What is it?
Ranch 616.
Right. Been down there. It was at least 3 sets of tables who came over asking while we're having dinner, please get a picture. Can we please get a picture? I mean, in the middle of dinner while you're eating, I finally got it. Like, I can only imagine what it must be at the really upper levels of celebritydom.
It seems miserable.
And I'm like, he goes, yeah, man, I can't go out anywhere now without that happening. And I'm just like,
does he like it?
No, he's actually very, Whitney. He's actually, believe it or not, very camera shy guy. For years, he does not. If he could not be on camera, I think he would probably have that druther. I think it's good for the show, but he's much more preferred to direct and write and whatnot. But so he's not that comfortable with celebrity at all.
Yeah, I know. I talked one time he was in town. He said he made a mention like he didn't know how many more seasons he would be doing it.
Right.
And he keeps doing it. I mean, kind of reluctantly, it seems like.
No, because on the Q ratings, and Q ratings are basically how you judge a character's popularity, and that's what advertisers need to see, because when they're buying ad time, they need to know how popular someone is.
Right.
He's got an incredibly high Q rating, and people are really disappointed when he's not on the show. And so every year he signs on for a minimum of shows.
I mean, do shows actually get like correspondence where somebody watches episode 6 and they will care enough to send an email like, we need more of so-and-so in the episodes?
I'm talking about tens of thousands of emails.
Jeez.
No, after a show of Southern Charm, I guarantee you close to 2 million people will watch the season premiere.
Jeez.
And Twitter will go on all night long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre.
So Southern Charm, the original, still going on. Is Southern Charm New Orleans going on?
Don't know yet.
Okay, so it's up in the air on whether it will be renewed for season 3?
Yeah, it is, and it's a shame, but we don't know. But unfortunately, that's the nature of the business.
So in San Antonio, we have well-known actors. We have Tommy Lee Jones lives here. Mm-hmm. Jackie Earle Haley lives here. We have people
Armie
that are
Hammer's here a lot of the time.
Him and his wife own Bird Bakery.
Right.
And we have people like yourself that are involved sort of on the production side. Let me ask you this. The Texacanas was, I guess, San Antonio's version of Real Housewives. And I mean, I don't really know any of them, but it was a single season run, which on Bravo probably means it was not a very successful run.
It didn't get renewed. Okay. And so I think it's in hiatus, and I think there is some discussion that another network may be picking it up, but no, they had a tough first season, which every reality show first season is always awkward and tough
because you got to build relationships, I guess, with your viewers.
It's 3 years. You have to be on 3 years before people will connect to your characters.
Why doesn't I mean, I hate the idea that when people think of San Antonio on television, I mean, all I think about is Cloak and Dagger, the movie, as like the one San Antonio movie, and then you think of Pee Wee Herman and the Alamo, but why do we not have a more sort of involved movie or TV scene? I mean, we're a large city. Robert Rodriguez is from here. I mean, we have people that are connected.
Real simple. Texas. New Mexico and Louisiana aggressively will give enormous tax breaks if you produce. Rodriguez doesn't even shoot here. Linkletter, Richard will shoot something here because he just likes it and he lives in Austin, doesn't really want to travel like this. But no, why we do not have it, and it's absolutely insane. It's kind of like when we didn't have horse racing, or why we don't have casino gambling. Used to be we didn't have horse racing because it was in New Mexico, Oklahoma, all around. New Mexico is killing it. Every show is shot in Albuquerque.
Actually,
Breaking Bad is every major show
Do you know that
generally shot in Albuquerque or in New Mexico?
That bank robbery movie that was the two guys, their
Yeah.
family's property was being taken by the bank.
Chris Pine and
Yeah, so that one.
Yeah.
That movie is filmed based in all the little towns around where I grew up.
Yeah.
You know, Archer City,
Right.
Henrietta, Quanah, I think are all mentioned in there. But it's filmed in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if that was a $15 million budget film or $20 million budget film, they would probably save almost $5 to $6 million.
Jeez.
So it's a no-brainer. And Louisiana, same way. Georgia now is taking up the slack.
Right. Georgia's huge now.
Georgia is taking up a lot of the TV because that's repetitive, whereas film is you're in there for probably 6-7 weeks. A series you're doing 16, 18 weeks.
Is this a city issue, though, or is it a state issue?
No, state issue.
Okay, see, the only and Georgia, I think, if I read correctly, they actually give money to film producers and TV producers to come film in Georgia.
They can't give you money; they can give you credits.
Fair.
And so that's the insanity of why this state should be the number one production in the country because of all the history we have. But that would take, again, leadership, foresight,
legislative.
Yep. And it would be a drop in the proverbial bucket compared to our budgets, and we could have every film in the world shot here. But
yeah, we have an identity that people want to know about.
The attitude that we're not going to give them Hollywood people some of our hard-earned tax dollars when they're so damn rich now they want to get me.
Yeah.
Whereas New Mexico is going, we did the math, and Bill Richardson was really the one who really started it, the former governor. He did the math actuarially, said, well, this is insane. Just the publicity we're going to get.
I mean, Better Call Saul even is. I mean, they highlight Albuquerque so much.
Absolutely. No, that's insane.
Okay, we don't have a ton of time left, so I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you. You and your brother, Pat, at some point owned a Riverwalk restaurant called Presidio.
Yeah.
You owned a bar right there called Tequila Mockingbird.
Tequila Mockingbird.
And also, I think there was an event space.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 stories of event space on top of it.
I want to ask you a couple questions about that, but you've told me this story one time, and I think everybody would love to hear this story, is you sort of had the perfect confluence of events at some point where the NBA All-Star team game was in town and Hard Rock was opening.
The greatest party in the history of San Antonio.
Okay, good. Tell us about it.
That really was true. Pat and I, again, through the good fortune of making a lot of money in law, we next to my dad's building, we had a parking lot which had access to the river right across from La Monción. And there was a lot of construction going on downtown, one of those occasional downtown renaissance. And also next door to us, Pat Kennedy, who owned the La Monción across the street, owned the building next to us. And then a gentleman from the Netherlands owned the Aztec Theater at that time. Huh. So that whole block was ripe for development. And actually, Henry was the head director at that time. And so we actually worked with the city and the federal, Cisneros. Worked with the city to redo that block. And so we built this beautiful development, it's still there, called Presidio Plaza. It's now Rita's, who owns it? Weston, I think, owns it now.
Rita's on the river, the restaurant there?
Yeah, so that building is what we built. And phenomenal, beautiful building, all brand new construction. And so in 1996, this is I'll digress just a second, we were, at that time, I was actually in the middle of a lawsuit with a young lawyer from Kansas City named Matt Keenan, who worked for Shook Hardy Bacon.
Okay.
And we were settling a bunch of pharmaceutical cases that day. We brought in guys from New Jersey. I think I said like 14 cases, so clearly it was a good day.
Yeah.
And I said, Matt, you going to hang around? He goes, well, I think I got to head back to Kansas City. I said, look, man, I'm having a pretty good party tonight. If you want to hang around? And he's like, yeah, okay. He had no idea what was going on. But what was going on that night was the Planet Hollywood used to throw the greatest opening parties in the world. I mean, they would fly in Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis. I mean, there would be 30 Lear
And that's
jets.
when Arnold, Bruce, and Sylvester Stallone owned it, right?
Yeah, they're actually part owners of the actual. They would bring in all of their friends.
Yeah.
We had every celebrity in the world flying in that night to go to our restaurant at Planet Hollywood there. And then we had this other little event. The NBA All-Star Game was going on that next night, and Jordan called up with Kobe, and they would need an event space, and they heard about the Hollywood party, and we had 2 floors of catering space, and so they rented out the entire second floor for their private party. So in the same building, we not only had the Planet Hollywood, We also then had the NBA All-Star Game super private party.
Huh.
There's actually an aerial shot of it that I still have in my office. 110,000 people showed up. They had to bring in cops from literally Shirt, Selma, because it was so crazy. But the funniest story, and we'll conclude on this, the funniest story was during the end of the night, or during the middle of the night, actually, I lost Matt Keenan. And Matt Keenan is this Kansas farm boy, naive, nicest white kid you have ever met in your life.
Now be careful, he might listen.
Matt loves this story. And so he was like senior of the year at the University of Kansas. I mean, student body president. I mean, everything a mama would want her boy to be.
Yeah.
So I lose Keenan, and he's like, I give him it's all access VIP pass. And so he's just walking around with a cocktail, just saying, wow, you throw a hell of a party, man. This is great. And so he's standing next to the elevator, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of security, and the elevator opens, and he gets shoved into the elevator. And he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And he looks around, and it's Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and like the security guys, and Matt Keenan. Get up to the second floor, and it's like, everybody, get off the elevator. And so Keenan walks in, and he's on a drink.
Like, who brought their accountant?
Yeah, and it's like, every NBA All-Star guy is there. I mean, with their entourage, and I mean, it was a cool party. And Matt Keenan. And so finally, he said the funniest story was he was just sitting there having a drink, looking around going, well, you do throw a good party, man. And so I wasn't up there. He was by himself. He was having a drink. And all of a sudden, I think it was Jordan who came over. It may have been Kobe, but it was one of them. And I don't want to mistake it because what's going on with Kobe, but I think it was Jordan. Came up to him and said, look, man, we got to ask. You got to be one bad dude because we don't even know who the hell you are, and you are in the hardest ticket party in the world right now, and you're just having a drink in this bar. Who the hell are you? Hi, I'm Matt from Kansas. True story.
Right place, right time.
Exactly. Yeah, he got to go to the party of the year. You know what? I never had difficulty selling cases after that.
Yeah. I wish he had more dirt on him, though.
Oh, God. No, Matt, that's an absolute true story. Yeah.
Well, Tim, next time Whitney's in town, I want both y'all to come on.
Absolutely.
You're currently, I'm not going to be.
In fact, he'll be here next week in Austin.
Okay, well, next time you're in San Antonio.
Sure, absolutely.
You're currently, I don't think this is saying anything untoward, but you're currently talking to Tanya Tucker.
Yeah.
She's maybe, she's having a renaissance right now, and you're talking to her about options. You recently had dinner with Sybil Shepherd here in San Antonio for the San Antonio Film Festival.
Absolutely.
And you've got other projects coming up. I know y'all are working. You and Yami Virhen here in San Antonio. She's involved with a group that y'all are doing. You're working on many projects.
Yeah, we've got 3 shows set on the border in Juarez. And what's really exciting is that my partner, John Paul Horseman, because the 3 partners in Vanglorious, actually it's 4. It's myself, Whitney Smith, John Paul Horseman, and Yami. We own Vanglorious. And John Paul is one of the great editors in Hollywood, and he has been working with a young singer who's done pretty well, Billie Eilish, who I would lie to say that I
don't know who she is. I know she's very popular and won a bunch of awards.
She just won 5 Grammys.
Yeah.
And more importantly, she just got the James Bond film.
Oh, that's right.
Right, so she is doing the theme song, and they do a video off of that, and she insisted the only way she would do it is John Paul would be her editor. So John Paul now is editing the new James Bond video.
It's good loyalty.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I saw the email she wrote. It was very touching, saying he is the best professional guy I've worked with, blah, blah, blah. And she insisted he be the editor.
Oh, cool.
And they sit side by side. And she actually directs her own videos. She's 17, just turned 18, and she directs them all. And he really, really is a huge fan of hers.
Makes you feel like maybe you're not being productive enough when an 18-year-old's doing that.
Yeah, but is she really happy winning 5 Grammys and being worldwide famous?
Okay, so next time you and Whitney are going to come back on, and I'm going to have to tell Whitney also family friendly. So, warn in.
I can't wait to see that.
All right, Tim, thank you very much for joining us.
Sure.
We got to talk about your Scorsese-esque foray into reality television and other things. Outside of law, you've got a lot to add, and it's an interesting story, and I'm glad you shared it, and we're going to share some more. On every episode, I'm going to give my guest wish list, my top 3 that I'm hoping I can get on the show at some point right now. If you can help, let us know. Coach Pop, Robert Rivard, and Jackie Earl Haley. Thank you, everybody. Join us next time. Hold on.
Just saw Pop at Signature. He was sitting there, and it was like right before the quarantine, I guess, started. And he was sitting there with a very fine bottle of wine with some other person. And I left him alone because it looked like it'd probably be a pretty good time.
Yeah, he's intimidating.
He also, is, you know what? He is a pretty intimidating guy, but I'll tell you what, he was drinking some damn good wine.
Well, if anybody listening out there, or Tim, if anybody can help me with any of those three, let me know, and thank you for joining us. It's kind of fun.
It's fun. Well, it's kind of very sounds very much like Kennedy, but better equipment.
Dude,
without the smell.
You should see all the other shit I bought.
Oh, yeah?
And I